When I was in my 20s, I wish I had been born with a beautiful brain, like the Dalai Lama, who I was sure was too busy counting his blessings to worry, and so all-knowing that fretful fretting was never an issue. Instead, I felt stuck with this brain that just caused me to stew and chew on things that scared and upset me. So when I learned about neuroplasticity, I felt such relief because I realized that I could change my brain. And if I could do that, then I could change. If you Google neuroplasticity, it says, and I quote, that it's the brain's ability to reorganize and form new neural connections throughout life. So the term self-directed neuroplasticity just means doing the work required to reorganize, to change and grow the necessary neural connections that will support your goals and the change you want to experience. In a sense, we're neurological reflections of everything that we repeatedly say, do, think, and believe. We can become self-fulfilling prophecies because, well, our brain will always want to prove us right or wrong depending on what we've wired it to believe. I wanted to become this more positive, wiser, calmer person, but all my brain knew was that something bad was always happening because it was always happening in my imagination. So when I tried thinking these more positive, wiser, calmer thoughts, I could feel my brain resisting, wanting to prove them wrong. And I realize now that it's because I didn't have the neurological networks in place to help me become this person. We can have an agenda for desired change, but it helps to have the neurological networks in place that are going to help us follow through. For example, we can want to believe that we're good enough, but if the dominant neurological network in our brain reinforces the negative, that we are not good enough, well then our brain may want to prove that thought that we are good enough, may want to prove it wrong. It may resist that thought. So how to build this other network that is going to support the idea, the thought, the belief that we are good enough? Well, we do that one thought, one neuron at a time. So every thought is important. It counts because it's either moving us towards or away from the person we want to be. Our thoughts, our feelings, well, they cause neuron firing patterns within the different parts of our brain. Our brain is always forming new neural connections. It's reinforcing old ones. Our thoughts, our feelings, all those conversations that take place inside us, well, they're causing neurons to fire and wire, creating neural pathways, strengthening or weakening networks that are already in place. In a sense, we are our brain, and our brain is a product of all the neural pathways, neural links, and associations that we've created intentionally or unintentionally. And these can reflect the worst or the best version of ourselves. We like to think that we decide over who we are becoming, but I think it's those neural networks that run the show, those neural pathways that manifest as habits, reactions, behaviors. We have a choice. We can continue to unconsciously wire our brain to support the person we don't want to become, or we can learn to use our mind to change our brain, to rewire it to support the person we really do want to be. I had to learn to use my mind to change my brain. And this is essentially what I teach clients to do, because I know that if I could do it, they can too. Thanks to self-directed neuroplasticity, we have far more control over what our brain looks like than we think. That phrase, use it or lose it, is so relevant when it comes to the brain, because the way to starve and weaken those neural networks that keep reminding us of who we don't want to be is to stop feeding them thoughts and emotions. When you think less and less about how not good enough you are, those neural pathways atrophy as you use them less and less. When I started using mindfulness to live more in the present moment and less in my head, I started changing my brain. And when I started to train my brain to shift its focus of attention, I started changing it. Really, using our mind to change our brain is about staying mindfully observant of our thoughts, our feelings, and how we judge our experiences, because these judgments are shaping our brain every day. In this moment, if you're learning something new and you apply it every day, you're changing your brain. And anytime you decide to be mindful and use the power of observation to remind yourself to do, feel, think, and speak differently, you're changing your brain. In this episode and in the two that will follow, I am going to be talking about what I most needed to learn: how to keep pruning and disempowering those networks that support who we don't want to be, and how to tend, grow, and strengthen those networks that do support the best version of ourselves. In my work, I often feel like a coach, a cheerleader, trying to be there for my clients as they learn to navigate that journey towards becoming more of who they want to be. And when I ask them, well, who is this person? What often comes across is that they want to come as close as possible to being perfect. The ego may want you to believe that doing your best, being your best, is about perfection, always being the super strong, super creative, super resilient, super wonderful person. That it's about nonstop winning, nonstop financial, physical, emotional success, no failures, no mistakes. It's about being influential and garnering the praise of others. Now, that may be great for the ego, but the ego can't really make us happy or bring us peace. It's important to remember that the word best isn't another word for perfect, and that if you're a human being, well, your best is going to be perfectly imperfect. So I remind clients that striving for being perfectly imperfect is good enough. Perfection may be, a very popular goal with the ego, but what I found is that becoming more perfect doesn't always bring us the happiness we seek. And in my work, I've learned that actually happiness can be more easily found when we make the goal to learn to love those perfect imperfections, to learn to make peace with, to accept the part of us that does things imperfectly, says things imperfectly. I tell clients that, listen, would you consider being open to becoming the sort of person who that you can catch yourself when you fall into failure, that you can learn to love that part of you that could have done things better, that part of you that is criticized and found lacking by others, that it being, your best self is about learning to extend a hand in unconditional encouragement to the part of you that needs it. If a client is feeling the consequences, the pressure of needing to be even more perfect, to become the sort of person who does everything right? Well, often we work on becoming someone who can do things less than perfectly and be okay with that. We focus on growing the self-love and acceptance in their mind and body, even when they feel like they're falling short. Most of us are greedy creatures. We want to be more calm, more confident, more happy. But we have to be careful because often it's this drive towards more that makes us forget to savor those moments when we're a little calm, a little confident, a little happy. Maybe shooting for that perfectly imperfect calm or confidence is, going to make us feel better, because certainly it's going to feel far less exhausting to achieve. And making that, perfectly imperfect calm or perfectly imperfect confidence feel good enough can often feel like, pure success. So we have to consider that maybe feeling happier or more successful isn't about imagining becoming this, more perfect version of ourselves, but rather, imagining that no matter what tiny, perfectly imperfect steps we take towards our goal, we're going to feel like a winner. I remind clients that making a commitment towards becoming their best self, well, it happens on a minute-to-minute basis. And what that means is that even in those moments when you forget to be that best you, when you can't manage to feel calm or confident, to tell yourself that it's okay, because already that more forgiving, compassionate, understanding, wiser attitude is changing your brain in a good way. And it's moving you in the right direction. We think that by fixating on our flaws, well, that this is going to motivate us to make the improvements we need. But it doesn't work that way, because, fixating on what's wrong with us is just embedding what's wrong with us more deeply in our subconscious mind, in our body. And it's hardwiring that perception even more deeply in our brain. It's growing this what's wrong with me network and, well, making those flaws appear even more flawed. So I ask clients to do two things. Instead of fixating on their flaws, to try observing them. And there's a big difference between the two because, well, fixating is all about criticism and judgment. Observing is free of that. And secondly, I ask them to just shift their attention, to begin focusing more on their strengths, their qualities. Because, what happens is that when we focus on the negative, well, we train our brain to, forget them. And we train our brain to dismiss these. But, they exist. And it's ironic that, we train our brain to notice every time we feel less than confident, but we forget to train it to observe every time we feel even just a little more confident or calm. Let's say you'd like to feel more confident. Well, if not feeling confident is all your body knows, then we have to try and get that feeling of confidence to become more familiar to your body, to your subconscious mind. So we start by shifting that focus of attention. So you're going to stop focusing on those 101 ways in which you are not confident and try to focus more on even one tiny way in which you are feeling more confident. Because when you focus on this one tiny way, what you're doing is that you're training your brain to prove you right, that yes, you are feeling more confident. I like to tell my clients that when they embrace those moments where they're feeling more of who they want to become and spend less time focusing on those moments when, they're failing that, well, that they're cultivating appreciation. They're learning to appreciate themselves more, and that's good for the brain. In quantum physics, there's something called the observer effect that basically says that your very observation is influencing that which is being observed. Now, where can we observe this change we'd like to see in us that hasn't happened yet? Well, we can observe it in our imagination. To, jumpstart change, a good way to do that is through observation. And we can begin by observing this best self that we'd like to become in our imagination. How would we be feeling, thinking, responding? And who exactly would be doing the observing? Well, it wouldn't be the judgmental critic in you. The observer is what I'd like to call the wise observer, that observes from a higher level of awareness, from a more compassionate place, a place of more wise understanding. It's this wise observer that really cheers us on and motivates us to make even the tiny changes in our behavior, our speech, but that when we fail to do that, doesn't judge us or criticize us, but is there with unconditional love and support. So, I encourage clients to really be the wise observer of their thoughts, their speech, their behavior. And if these aren't supporting or in line with who they would like to be, let's say it's a more confident person, well, then to make the small, adjustments, the tweaks that need to be made in their imagination. It's important that our body, that our subconscious mind grow more familiar with this feeling of confidence, that they grow more at ease with feeling, with this emotion. So it's important to practice feeling confident. And if we can't manage to do it in a real life situation, well, then using our imagination and practicing it there. Because as I've said, our body can't tell the difference between a real life situation and an imagined one. So in an upcoming episode, I'm going to be talking about, the ways to, visualize in an optimal way. Because when you can learn to do that, your body will already think that you're this confident person that you say you'd like to be. When you repeatedly imagine feeling this state called confidence, well, you start growing that belief in your subconscious mind. And that's what you want. Now, I've been using confidence as an example, but of course, you can replace it with any resourceful feeling that you'd like. One of the best ways to start building those neural pathways to confidence or whatever resourceful feeling you choose is to stop and notice where you feel that feeling of confidence or calm or whatever the next time you feel it. And every time after that, ask yourself, where am I feeling this feeling in my body? Maybe it's your chest, maybe it's your stomach, maybe it's your throat. Make your brain remember it. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what does this feeling feel like? My clients are often very surprised by the answers. Train your brain to study this empowered state, this feeling of confidence. Because when it does that, those neurons start firing and wiring confidence hardwiring it in your brain and making your body feel even more comfortable with feeling confident. In order to light up that neural network called confidence, make your brain, train it to go in search of situations in the past where you felt a little or a lot of confidence. And, zero in on that feeling. Make it bigger by noticing where you feel it in your body, how it feels in your body. Observe your face. What does that expression of confidence look like? Observe your posture. How are you moving? How are you breathing? Pay attention to that conversation, to the thoughts that are driving that confidence, reinforcing it. All of this is valuable information that you can use to try channeling, projecting that greater feeling of confidence when you need to feel it. As I like to say, the brain learns through repetition. So if feeling confident is what you want, or perhaps some other resourceful state, then it's a good idea to make it a habit to create these more empowering experiences in our mind, to see, feel, listen to ourselves already feeling more confident or more calm. It's a good idea to create these different scenarios, these different situations where, we're already feeling the way we'd like to feel, because what this does is it's creating those desired synaptic connections between the different situations and that greater, more resourceful feeling like confidence or calm. And it's creating lots of neural links to that more positive neural network. We become more of what we repeatedly say we are, or what people we trust repeatedly say we are. So if you keep saying, for example, how forgetful you are, what a mess you are, how you're not good enough, not confident enough, and this is all the subconscious mind is hearing, well, you may become more of that. This isn't something you consciously choose, but all of these adjectives and adverbs, these labels, well, they get buried in our subconscious mind and keep us stuck in who we don't want to be. No matter how true that label might seem for you, it's probably a good idea to be mindful about not thinking or voicing out loud who you don't want to become more of. Rewiring our brain for change starts with a clear intention to peel off those labels, to unstick them. And if we're the onion that has many layers, then it's about, learning to peel that label off every single layer. When we can do this, we can achieve change at the subconscious level where transformation sticks. So one of the ways that we can start weakening those networks that keep the labels stuck to us is by learning to catch ourselves, observe ourselves when we're feeling, thinking, acting out that label. I'm not good enough, I'm not confident enough, I'm a failure. And then flipping the direction of the narrative from the negative to the positive. I am confident, I am good enough. Failure is making me stronger. When I need to feel like failure is making me stronger, I voice aloud the words of Confucius, who said that our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. I ask clients to dig deep and see if they can't find any tiny part of themselves that does feel the way they want to feel, whether that's feeling good enough or more confident. And if they can't do that, if they can't manage it, I ask them to fake it until they make it in their head, until the chemicals of that emotion become more familiar to the cells in their body. Now, often I'll have a client who says, well, if I do that, I'll feel like a fake. So I explain that it's all about intention. You're faking it with a purpose, with the intention of creating positive change. Are there going to be moments when you're going to want to laugh at how absurd, how silly, how not true some of these statements are going to feel? Probably. Go ahead and laugh. That's a good thing. Are you always going to believe what you're telling yourself? Well, sometimes you may, sometimes you may not. Just keep faking it. Just keep repeating those positive statements with heartfelt intention. Are there going to be moments when you forget to catch yourself thinking negatively and feeling less than confident, for example, or catch yourself but still not be able to turn that around in a more positive direction? Probably, and that's okay. The road to change is perfectly imperfect. When that happens, just give yourself a good dose of forgiveness. Go easy on the judgment, heavy on the love, and remember that, the present moment is always giving us plenty of opportunities to practice becoming who we want to be. Whatever your goal is, if you're not already where you want to be, you're getting there. Many of my clients, however, just feel that the road to greater confidence, calm, feeling good enough, feeling strong enough, just seems so daunting, so long, so unrealistic. And when that's the case, I ask them to open to the possibility that they're halfway there, just by adding the word maybe. Maybe this failure is making me stronger. Maybe I can open to the possibility that I'm good enough. Maybe I can feel calmer. Maybe I can believe that I'm feeling more confident. Or with as much conviction as they can, to say, for example, I am feeling a little confident. I'm feeling a little calmer. I may not feel as confident as I'd like right now, and that's okay. I'm working on feeling more confident, and that's good enough. You can experiment and see what works for you that makes you feel that at least you're meeting it halfway. The wise observer in you knows exactly what you need to hear to grow that positive whisper and make it louder, stronger. I ask clients to put as much heart as they can into that powerful self-talk and to dig deep and see if they can connect with that part of us that is us and yet greater than us. I believe there's a superhero inside all of us, and whether the superhero looks like Superman, Wonder Woman, or Jesus, this superhero is itching to come to the rescue, to help us become more of who we want to be. It's absolutely worthwhile taking the time to do the work and grow this belief that there's a hero inside of us that is there for us. Repeating, feeling, saying these power statements, what that's doing is growing this empowering neural network that supports who you want to be until it becomes the loudest voice in your head, or at least loud enough to compete with that opposing network that keeps you stuck believing in who you don't want to be. It can seem as though our brain challenges this person that we want to become more of, that it makes it difficult for us to feel a certain way. We know a feeling is a feeling, but actually a feeling is a chemical messenger. And let's say that we're in this I'm not feeling good enough mindset, well, then the brain is going to bring us thoughts and feelings that have a similar biochemical match to that I'm not feeling good enough mindset. So we may just be thinking thoughts and feeling things that keep us stuck in that, oh, I'm feeling not good enough. But our brain doesn't conspire against us. It can cooperate and help us as well. If, for example, we observe ourselves being in that mindset and looking at the world through eyes of someone that doesn't feel good enough, we can say, you know what, I'm going to make the switch and try and get into that more positive, I am good enough mindset. And once we do, the brain will notice, cooperate, and send us feelings and thoughts that will have a similar biochemical match to that I'm feeling good enough. So we may just find ourselves thinking positive thoughts and feeling in ways that make us feel good enough so that that emotion becomes easier to sustain. There are many things that you can do to put you on the road towards becoming who you want to be and building this neural network that's going to support this version of you. First, you can start by contemplating this new you. How are you going to be thinking, feeling, behaving, speaking? Write it down, be very detailed, very specific, and begin by saying that you're this person now, every day. I know that I wanted to become this wiser, calmer, more balanced person. So that's what I kept repeating and hearing in my head. And when I couldn't be this person in a real life situation, I acted it out in my imagination so that my brain could learn, so that it could get to know and become more comfortable with this new me. And then voice that intention every day that you're becoming this person. Train your brain to notice through mindfulness anything, however tiny or insignificant, that you're doing or feeling or thinking or saying that's aligned with this new you, that proves that you're moving in the direction of change. Pay attention to anything that you're telling yourself or doing or saying that's really motivating you, making you feel powerful, that you're changing, and keep repeating it. If it's something that you're thinking, write it down on a Post-it note. Make your brain read it. Make your body feel it every day. One of the ways that we can start rewiring our brain to support this person that we want to become is to start focusing more, celebrating more those fleeting small moments when we're feeling like this person we want to be, and to start focusing less on the letdowns, the times when we feel like we failed ourselves, those disappointing moments when we feel like we just couldn't be that person, feel that calm or confidence, and learn to let that disappointment go. Instead, treat that present moment as an opportunity, because the mundane present moment is always giving us opportunities to practice feeling the way that we want to become. An out-of-the-box way to do this is to ask yourself, let's say that you'd like to become more confident and calm. Well, how would a calm, confident person be texting, cleaning, cooking, watching TV, doing the laundry? And then try doing that, feeling that calm confidence when you're cleaning the toilet, chopping those vegetables, folding the towels, watching that movie. You know, the wonderful present moment is going to bring us limitless opportunities to practice hardwiring that resourceful feeling in our body. A wonderful way to communicate to your body, to your subconscious mind about this new person that you're becoming is through power images. I encourage my clients to come up with their own, and it's absolutely worth taking the time to experiment and, come up with the ones that bring you that zing. You want to create an image that really makes you feel like, you're feeling the way you want to feel, that you're in control. And if you're into superheroes, maybe it's an image of you dressed and feeling like Captain America or Wonder Woman, ready to take on the world. The subconscious mind loves images, and especially the ones that, of you already having achieved that goal. So let's say you're someone who wants to become a more confident conversationalist. Well, maybe that would be an image of you driving home with a smile on your face, feeling so pleased at how natural, how easy it was for you to behave and with more confidence at that dinner party you attended. And what happens is that as you replay this power image over and over in your head, well, it convinces the body that it really happened. And what it does is it makes this confidence more familiar to your body, to your subconscious mind, which is what you want to hardwire your brain for positive change. Once you have that power image, close your eyes and experiment with, where do you want to place that power image? Do you want to have it nice and close up right in the middle of your mind? Or do you want to move it up to the left-hand corner or maybe the right-hand corner? See what feels best. Or maybe you want to place that power image right in the middle of your heart. I had a client who, wanted to become someone who was more comfortable speaking in front of an audience. So she decided to place her power image right in the middle of her throat. Once you have that, decide on the size. Okay, how big are you going to make this power image? Is it going to be small? Is it going to be big? Experiment and see what feels right to you. If you have trouble coming up with your power image, well, ask your subconscious mind. Before you go to sleep, just ask it to come up with the right image for you. And you'd be surprised the next morning what it's come up with. I know that for me, my power image is just a big billboard sign that says in flashing green letters, I'm powerfully wise. And I make it really big so my brain can read it every day. Let's say that you're someone who'd like to become a happier, calmer person. Try doing this. Close your eyes. Take a nice, slow, mindful in and out breath and ask yourself, where in my body is my happiness? Where in my body is my calm? Don't allow fear or doubt to hide it. It's there, it exists somewhere inside of you. You'd be surprised at the feelings that you can create from scratch and what your brain can find when you give it a task. I wanted to become this happier person, so I got crazily creative in the pursuit of happiness. I started asking my organs, gallbladder, are you happy? Liver, are you happy? Spleen, are you happy? I'd ask the parts of my body, feet, are you happy? Calves, are you happy? Knees, are you happy? And once I had almost exhausted this list, when I came to my cheeks. And when I asked my cheeks if they were happy, they said yes. And this thought, as ludicrous as it was, the thought that my liver was happy and my cheeks were happy, it made me smile. So I just sat there smiling. I had found that happiness. Another time, I was feeling particularly worried. And when I asked my body, where inside of you is my happiness? Well, I just couldn't find it. So I challenged my brain. I said, find me that happiness. I kept repeating, find me my happy, find me my happy. And all of a sudden, I started thinking about when my twin sister and I were toddlers. And I started feeling so blessed that no matter what, I had my twin sister, that I started to feel happy. It totally shifted my mood. My brain had found me those memories. So train your brain to go in search of that resourceful feeling that you want to become more of. Challenge it, make it fun, make it creative. With repeated practice, your brain won't want to disappoint you. The brain loves music. Try using it to go in search of music that's going to make you feel like the person you want to become. Often, when we're feeling sad or angry, we gravitate towards music that matches our mood, which is fine if you'd like to feel more of those feelings. But if your goal is to become someone who feels happier or calmer, consider listening to more music that's going to help your brain release those happy, calm hormones. It surprises clients when I ask them if they enjoy wearing fragrance, and many times they do. So if, for example, they want to become more confident, I'll ask them, would you consider going out and shopping for a new scent, something that smells like confidence, that makes you feel confident? I do this because I want them to engage their sense of smell and use it to motivate that positive change. I want their brain to create a new neural association linking that scent with the person that they want to be, with this new, more resourceful feeling of confidence. If you'd like, go out shopping and find a fragrance that smells like the person you want to become. Breathe in that fragrance, breathe in that new you, and allow it to remind you that you're changing. I ask my clients if they would consider giving thanks for positive change before it even happens, to thank God, the universe, themselves, whoever it is they'd like, that they were able to make that change. If you'd like, consider training your brain to give thanks in advance, to be grateful in advance. So let's say that you're going to need an extra dose of confidence or calm or resilience. Consider before you go to sleep or any time the day prior to give thanks for feeling that way, even before you feel it. Think about this person that you'd like to become. And if you enjoy writing or journaling, or even if you've never tried it, write the story of how you became that way. So let's say you're someone who, wants to feel more good enough. Well, then fill that page with rumination that makes you feel good enough. Fill that page with thoughts that really drive that good enough feeling. Write about that newfound confidence and how that's, changed your life, how it feels to finally feel that way. And then during the day, practice thinking about what you wrote. If we have unconsciously wired our brain to go heavy on the negative, to focus on this person that we don't want to be anymore, well, it may just keep reminding us of how far we have to go on this road towards change. Keep noticing how we are so not this person that we want to become. It can keep trying to justify those limiting thoughts, those limiting beliefs about ourselves. So I ask my clients to create a file, a folder in their mind titled The Best of Me. And what this does is it starts creating that neural network that's going to support the best version of themselves. So let's say you're someone who would like to feel more good enough. Well, examples of things that you can put in that best of me file are, let's say that you're speaking with someone that you know is judging you negatively, but you still in your mind, you're thinking, I'm good enough. You can put that in the best of me folder. Anytime you catch yourself speaking in a way that makes you feel not good enough, and you manage to switch to observer mode and observe those thoughts with compassion, the you that's doing the criticizing with compassion, put that in the best of me. Anytime you catch yourself judging yourself negatively and you can manage to rein back that judgment, that definitely goes in the best of me. Watch for any signs where you're feeling not just more than good enough, but even a little good enough. Watch for those signs and put them in the good enough folder, in the best of me. Anytime that you make an effort to feel good enough, whether that effort succeeded or failed, put that in the best of me folder. Anytime that you find yourself giving that part of you that feels less than good enough, extra reassurance, extra love, definitely that goes in the best of me. Anytime that you find yourself forgiving someone, forgiving yourself, that goes in the best of me file. Anytime that you give yourself praise, like I said, regardless of how fruitful that effort was, and you could say, good try, like you would to a small child and mean it, definitely put that in the best of me file. Make that folder thick, make it big, because the bigger you make it, the bigger you grow that neural network that's growing that person, that you that's feeling good enough. And this folder is there as a resource. Use it. Don't just file things away and forget about them. No, when you're feeling less than good enough, go back, open that folder and peruse it. See the times when you felt or did something, behaved in a way that made you feel good enough, or even a little of that. Because all of that is going to remind you that you are changing. So use that as a resource. And I encourage you, if you haven't, already started doing something like this, that you make that best of me file, create it in your mind today, and start filing away those moments when you really are feeling the way that you want to become. Our imagination is a powerhouse of untapped potential. I think that it's one of the greatest gifts we have, but it's one that we have yet to completely unwrap because it remains such an underused, undervalued tool for change. As children, we live and thrive in our imagination, but somewhere along the way, we're taught that if we imagine something, it doesn't count. It's not real. Like when we dismissively say, well, it's only in our head, or he just imagined it. But research tells us that what we bring to life in our imagination becomes real in our body. I think this is probably why for so long it really felt as though I was living my life inside my head, because what was happening there was so very real to every one of the cells in my body. And the thing is that what happens in our imagination doesn't just stay in our imagination, it affects our body. It influences our subconscious mind, and according to the law of attraction, it can even influence outcomes. I find it amazing that what repeatedly happens in our imagination can change the brain. Imagining change is an important step towards changing anything. Our imagination is a powerful weapon. We can use it intentionally to create good change, or unintentionally to create not so good change, depending on what we're thinking, doing, saying, believing in our imagination. What we often don't realize is that we use our mind to direct our imagination, to empower or disempower our body, our life. I like to say that we're only as powerful as the neural networks in our brain. So it's up to us to clear those new empowering pathways, grow those chosen networks, strengthen that neural circuitry with intentional imagining with purpose, because real change can be created in our imagination. When a client's desire and discipline isn't enough to create change, I teach them to mentally rehearse their way towards positive change. And our imagination provides the perfect venue. The best way to manifest change is to rehearse that change every day in our head. What's it going to look like, sound like, feel like? When you regularly practice doing things differently in your imagination, change can happen. When we repeatedly imagine doing something differently, what we're doing is that we are taking our brain, our body, off autopilot. Research tells us that when we imagine in a way that engages all our senses, the same regions in our brain light up as if we were actually doing that. I think that the key to change is to get the brain to reflect neurologically the change we want. And that means practicing that change in real life. And if that's not possible, in our imagination. Because what that practice is doing is it's, feeding familiarity so that our body becomes more familiar with behaving, with thinking a certain way. And pretty soon it won't feel like that behavior, those feelings, those thoughts are somehow not real, that we're having to fake them. It will seem as though, we really are feeling genuinely this way. When we pretend in our imagination to feel happier, stronger, calmer, your body doesn't know that you're not already this person. So what happens is that your brain sends those feel-good hormones, those more calming hormones that make your body feel like, yes, you are stronger, you are calmer, you are happier. If we are what we believe, what is it that we're believing in? If we're believing in something that makes us feel limited, why not try imagining that we're believing in something that makes us feel unlimited? In this way, we start planting that subconscious belief that we are pure potential and possibility. In order for us to have faith in that best case scenario, in that win, in that success, our subconscious mind has to believe it's possible. And a good way to convince it is by imagining that win, that success. If we begin by experiencing good things in our imagination every day, then we can train our brain to predict them. And that helps us expect them. And when that happens, the subconscious mind starts believing that success is possible. Whether you're someone who wants to play a better game of golf or tennis, or deliver a memorable speech, or drop 20 pounds, but lack the confidence to do so, well, consider practicing that confidence in your imagination and remind yourself that there is purpose in that imagining, that it's helping to wire and shape your brain to go in a more confident, optimistic direction. Remember that what you focus on repeatedly can become a magnet that attracts more of the same. So choose that feeling, choose that thinking, choose those images, those conversations in your imagination, not just once in a while, but as often as you can, because this can start creating change at the neurological and the subconscious level. When you make it a habit through repetition to do something in your imagination that makes you feel good, or hear something, or feel something, or think something that makes you feel good, and you bring all of this together, you start linking all of these, well, what that's doing is creating these lovely neural highways and making them intersect, interconnect, building those synaptic connections, that neural circuitry that's going to help you trust in those feel-good endings. I know that when I started pretending that this particular situation was going to make me feel stronger, well, my brain observed that, I was acting differently. So as it was absorbing this new information, what it was doing was it was learning that I was changing. You may have no idea if you're going to be able to reach that goal, if that change is going to happen, if that best case scenario is going to unfold. But to the degree that you can, try repeatedly imagining, feeling, thinking, seeing, hearing it take place in your future, that somehow, some way it happened, and feel that relief, that gratitude. This imagined future that takes place in the present moment serves an important physiological and neurological purpose. So spending time imagining good things is never wasted time. Daydreaming with intention is good for the brain, the mind, the body, and can contribute to our wellness in many ways. When we can start changing how we perceive ourselves in our imagination, the body starts to feel it. The self that we feel, see, and hear starts to change without anything else necessarily having changed. Now, you may wonder why, you're imagining good things, you're daydreaming, and yet you may feel stuck as the same person. Well, I would say to you that not all imagining is created equal. So in the next 2 episodes, I'm going to be sharing ways that you can take that imagining to the next level and use it to make that change happen, to make those goals come true. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, any comments, I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, Just remember to write Viking on the subject line. As always, I hope that something I've shared can help you get started on the road to empowering change, to becoming your best self.